Welcome to the Resonate Church Missoula podcast. This podcast exists to equip and encourage the members of Resonate Church to get the gospel to people, people to community, and community to mission. Thanks for listening. Alex, I wanted to sit down and talk to you about the sermon last week on mentorship. We wrapped up this relational redemption series by talking about a type of relationship that I think is often almost implied or implicit rather than explicit. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to dedicate at least 1 week to talking about that type of relationship. What should our expectations be? What do these relationships look like? Because I think the vast majority of people don't have any sort of intentional mentorship in their life. Like they probably have parents. If they have a good relationship with parents, then they have that kind of dynamic going on. But I don't think if you asked them, like, list out your 5 mentors, I think most people don't even think in those categories. Yep. So that was my goal last week. And so I just real briefly, the structure was God has designed us for 3 types of mentors, and I gave them the label of peers who are in the same life stage as you. Older siblings are just one life stage ahead, 3 to 10 years ahead, and then parent mentors are the ones that are decades, 20 to 60 years, 60 years older, and they're in a whole different life stage. So they can look back on your thing as a separate, I remember when I went through that sort of thing, and they have a different level of perspective. So as you were listening to that sermon, I'll start out general. Any thoughts that you had, any reflections? Did those categories seem to map onto your life accurately, or are there any shifts that you would make?
No, I thought it was great. It was short and sweet. And, when I hear the word mentorship, this isn't exactly what you meant, but we're just talking about discipleship. So for people who don't have mentors, I long for them to have discipleship and someone who's leading them towards life in the kingdom of heaven. Mm-hmm. And so I thought those were great. I remember thinking as you preached, I'm trying to remember. I didn't write this down anywhere, but I remember thinking about what each relationship offers. And I think you talked a bit about how peer mentors offer sharpening of some sort. Like they offer just back and forth correction, accountability, that kind of thing. Then I thought older sibling mentors offer just a picture of what's next. Yeah. They can help you see around the next corner. Yeah. And
I think the word I gave was guiding on older siblings.
Yeah. They're just a step ahead. And then the parent mentors, I thought they just offer perspective. Like they're not going to give you the most relatable advice because they went through what you're going through decades ago, but they can offer you a much broader perspective and help you see things in a way you're not even seeing them. Right. And so I thought it was just helpful to say, what does each of these offer? Yeah. But I thought it was great.
Yeah. What has your experience been with, one of my main points in the sermon was about, does this type of mentor, how important is it that they are in your life consistently versus, maybe they live in a different city or you call them every once in a while. What has your experience with that been in mentorship? Maybe you could speak about like current day. What does it look like?
Sure, yeah.
And then maybe we can shift to what did it look like when you were in college or new in your faith, things like that.
Because I totally think it changes over time too. Current day, peer mentors. When I think of that term, I mostly think of my old college buddies who live in other cities. But I think what's helpful, so they're not local. You said peer mentors, it's really important that they're local. Mm-hmm. And I think what's important there is they were at one time local, and we have so much shared life, and there's so much accessibility to each other's life. It's like they're local. Right. Like I FaceTime these guys once a week. So it's as if they're local in a modern age. Right. But they're not. So.
And you're relatively new to Missoula.
Right.
It's not like you've been here 10 years and your 2 best friends are living somewhere else.
And I mean, that's not to say we don't have peer mentors and friends in Missoula. There's just, we're in a different stage of life. Like we said, that changes. And so even those that are peers, I see once or twice a week max for an hour at a time. Yeah. And so that's different than it once was.
Yeah. What did it look like when you were, say, new to your faith, single, in college or just out of college?
I mean,
did it look pretty different?
Oh yeah. Those were the guys I lived with. Right. Those are the guys who saw the messiest parts of my life and I saw the messiest parts of theirs. And I was going to huddle with these guys, and we were learning the very basics of Christianity alongside one another. And so we were raw and failing every day. And having those guys in my life and they got to point me in the right direction, and I got to point them in the right direction when I was stumbling. And so it was just wildly different back then. And it's cool to grow up alongside somebody and be in the same season now.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a nuance to this conversation that I didn't provide in the sermon just for the sake of time, but I think I was thinking this as Brian was answering some of my questions on stage last week. I was thinking there's another dimension here. This isn't just a X plot. This is an X and Y plot. So it's not just about your peers need to be local, but your parents can be far away. It also really depends on what stage of life are you in. Because the more mature you get, the less important it is that you have people in your life constantly who are seeing things, pointing things out. So like you just talked about, and I had a very similar experience when I was newer to the faith, newer to taking my faith seriously, and younger, it's like 18, I needed those peers in my life. I mean, daily would have been not nearly frequent enough. Hourly, like every 30 minutes, I'm with one of my guys, and they're seeing stuff in me and pulling stuff out of me and naming it. I needed that level of intensity. Today, that would drive me insane. I can't even imagine. Yeah, it's totally impossible, and I can't even imagine that kind of situation anymore because I'm now 30 years old, and I'm a husband and I have kids, and I'm just in a different life stage now. So as people are maybe listening to the sermon or listening to this podcast, the importance of having your mentors really close to you, close by you, changes depending on your maturity, changes depending on your life stage.
Go
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think what you're getting at when you said local is like what I was talking about with access, or how much of your life do they see and know. And so this sermon, I mean, may have been much different 100 years ago without FaceTime, or just, like we have different tools now. So local is great and it's important, but there's people across the country who I take initiative in such a way where they do see my life, and they can hold me accountable.
Right. So what I was hoping that people walked away from this sermon with really was almost different depending on your life stage. If I was really honest about it, if you are, let's say you're an 18-year-old freshman and you hear this sermon, what I wanted you to hear more than anything is surround yourself with peers who see every part of you. You need those kind of mentors in your life all the time, pointing stuff out. That's your biggest need by far. But then to the 30, 35-year-old who's been walking with Jesus maybe 15 years seriously, and in a different life stage, married, has kids, has a career, all that stuff. I wasn't mainly saying to them, you need to get a whole bunch of best friends to live in your basement and see your life every day. I was mainly saying to them, you need to develop the triangle underneath you. You need to become a mentor, and you need to not worry so much about having mentors that are around you every day. It's not a realistic expectation as you grow into maturity. And in some ways, I want to figure out how to say this without it sounding harsh. But in some ways, that desire is it's a childish or an infantile desire. It's I want to be treated as if I'm still a child in the faith, even though I should be an adult. And that's some of Paul's language, right? In 1 Corinthians, I want to treat you guys like adults, but you're still acting like kids, so I got to treat you like a bunch of kids. So using those categories, when we say, if you're 35 years old and you've been a Christian 20 years and you still want to be hand-fed, you're acting like a baby when you should be a grown-up. And grown-ups can feed themselves. They can pursue mentorship externally. They don't need people in their life every 30 minutes like we all did at one point.
For me, that begs the question. So you talk about 18-year-old new believer and 35-year-old old believer. What about the 35-year-old new believer? Who's out there? There's guys out there who just decided to follow Jesus and they're married and they have kids. So what would be your message to them?
I mean, I think you got to do the best you can. You're not going to get a bunch of roommates moving in. You can't relive the old college glory days when you have a wife and kids and stuff like that. But I think you do need to invite some men in close, and you need to be vulnerable with them and transparent with them, and don't you shouldn't yet trust yourself to see all the issues in your life, because you don't know what the issues are. Instead, you need to just kind of expose your life to other people who are more mature and let them point out, hey, there's something you need to work on here, or something to keep an eye on there. So it is a little bit harder. I definitely recognize that. And I think that's why we always say the college years are the most transformative years of your life, because you can grow in 4 years. You can grow as much as 30 years of a different stage of life.
Yeah.
That 35-year-old guy that becomes a Christian, it's going to take him decades to get to the level of transformation that you can see in college, because life is just different. You don't have nearly as much opportunity for that kind of mentorship and discipleship later in life.
No, that's good. I think I asked that question just maybe to reiterate what you said earlier, that the sermon lands differently depending on what stage you are in life and in the faith. And there's different takeaways for each person.
Yeah. What was your experience in Bozeman? So you and Molly were there, and slowly I'll let you talk about it. But yeah, I'd be curious, in all 3 layers, what was your experience like in Bozeman, and kind of how did it come to a head in a way that you guys thought maybe a different place to live would be a good idea for us?
Yeah. Well, we were the church planner pastors. So that triangle below us totally developed. Like we're making disciples. Right. We're making disciples.
You hit the ground with you hit the ground at the top of the triangle.
Yeah,
locally.
Exactly. That's a good way to say it. We were at the top. I think over the years in Bozeman, it was our goal to have peer-ish mentors, to be older siblings as much as we could to the people in our church. But we longed for friends who could sharpen us, and we had those at different times in our time in Bozeman. But we, by and large, were at the top of the triangle, and so we looked for mentors. I think while we were there, I would meet with local pastors sometimes and look for mentorship, and they were helpful. There were people who worked for the convention who were mentors at the time. I met with Keith Evans, every month or every couple of weeks or so, and he would be very helpful. But I think, even with some of those mentors, we longed for people in our day-to-day life who could see us as humans and not just as mentors. And so we longed for peers, because when you are at the top of the triangle and everyone's looking up at you, that doesn't make for a good peer relationship. Right. And like we said, you're healthiest with those kinds of peers. Yeah. So eventually, that and many other events led us to say, where could we go where we might have peers, might not only have peers, but also be able to develop that triangle below us again, and be older siblings, and be mentors to people. And Missoula seemed like an awesome fit.
Yeah. Because coming out of Bozeman, you guys had a few different options you were considering. Yeah. And probably one of your main criteria was, where are friends? Where can we have friends?
That was probably our number one criteria.
Yeah.
And there were options on the table that didn't allow, or seemingly didn't allow, for easy mentorship. We couldn't just move and have mentors and be mentors to people. So that's places like moving back home, where there's family and there's sweet opportunity there, but there's not mentorship, discipleship like you described. Yeah. And we knew how important that was.
Yeah. And it would have been you would have had a much more limited triangle beneath you as well.
Exactly.
So I think that's another feature of growing up, is you just stop worrying so much about the triangle above you, and you start worrying way more about the triangle below you. What's my legacy? What's my impact? How am I affecting the next generation? How am I affecting the world? Instead of, how am I getting what I want or need from other people around me? We have kids. You can map that onto your kid. Yeah. Kids are not at all concerned about what can I provide.
Right.
They're only about what can I consume? What's for me coming up soon? And then when you become a parent, you're forced to think primarily about, how can I provide for other people, needier people.
And just to process that, I wonder, the more you try to build that triangle below you, the more you're interested in making disciples, I feel like the more mentors might even be drawn towards you. I want to help you invest in the next generation, because that's a piece of their legacy. And so I one of my parent mentors is my uncle. And I find myself, I want to talk to him about parenting and about pastoring because he's done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he makes time for me because he knows, man, this isn't just going to end with you. This is going to affect other people out there too.
Right. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I was on the phone. Well, you know about this. I talked to you about this conversation, but I got on the phone on Friday with a guy who is he's the national director of multiplying churches.
It's crazy.
In North America.
Yeah.
So like he oversees the top 500 of all 50,000 SBC churches in North America. He's intimately involved in all of their church planting and disciple making. He's a huge deal.
Yeah.
He was a somewhat of a personal friend from prior occupations, but I sent him a text on Wednesday. He's like, hey, I'm at a conference. Can I call on Friday? And we talked for 45 minutes on Friday because he wants to pour into us in Missoula because he thinks we're doing something impactful.
Yeah.
The more I say that just to affirm what you said, the more you give your life in a meaningful way to the next generation, the more meaningful mentors above you say, I want to invest in that guy because he's making a difference. He's actually doing something. He's not just trying to, consume the benefits of my wisdom or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a huge blessing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Back to what you were saying about Bozeman. At the end of the day, you just have to have friends wherever you go. Almost nobody survives anywhere for very long without friends. Yeah. That's a very rare person. And it's not ideal. It's not, you don't want to be that guy that survives without
it's not
friends.
best for you. And you kind of just said this, but you can endure almost anything if you do have friends.
Yeah.
Like if you can endure the hardest of hardships, if you're in the trenches alongside brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, something that I've been so thankful for in the last couple of years here in Resonate. I mean, we've always had friends. I would definitely call them friends, peers that planted the church with us. But in the last few years to have kind of a community of friends that have not just said, we're here to help you plant a church until we get antsy and want to do something else, but instead have said, we want to build something here that's going to last. We want to build a church for our children and grandchildren, their generation, because it gives it's almost like you go to the altar and your bride says, I commit for life. Like there's a security, there's a secure attachment to your wife. Yeah. I don't have to wonder if Tracy's going to leave me tonight. Like we already settled that a long time ago. Yeah. When you have friends that have committed for the long term, you don't wake up every morning wondering who's gonna leave today, who's gonna backstab today, who's gonna betray today. Yep. They're just in it. We're all in it together.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's encouraging stuff. Any other reflections on the whole topic of mentorship, discipleship? Anything stand out to you?
I don't know if I have anything to add. Discipleship, obviously it's a priority of Jesus's, but it's a passion of mine. I think everyone should be being discipled, but just like you said, we have to be clear about what that looks like in each stage. So as a young married man, that looks wildly different for me today than it used to. So like I mentioned, my uncle, my older parents, mentors, it's like I talk to them once every 6 months. I'm not, and that's fine. I'm not longing for that in my weekly life. Right. I don't think those are the people who I want investing in me aren't the kind of people who are available to invest in me like that. I want them to be busy making kingdom impact too. Right. And so if I get 30 minutes of their time every 6 months, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's we should talk about that for a minute. That's a dynamic that I don't hear people name very often.
Yeah.
So I hear people say, I want mentorship. I want the kind of mentor that I can just be in their life, be in their home, spend lots of time with them. They could be a mother or father to me. The problem is the kinds of older, if we're thinking 50, 60-year-old people, the kinds of people who have that sort of availability are not the kinds of people that you want to be mentored by. Yeah. Because they're not doing a whole lot. Yeah. Like the kind of people that you should be eager to get around are the ones that are, they can make time for a call every couple months. Yeah. That's because they're packed. They're trying to leverage the golden years of their life for God's kingdom. Yeah. So just because you can, old people are great, just because someone is old doesn't mean that they're wise.
Yeah,
it just means that they're more set in whatever trajectory they started on when they were young.
Yeah.
So if they're on a good trajectory, after 50 years, they're going to be very wise. A lot of them were not. And so at the end of 50 years, they are stubborn and bullheaded and bigoted and backwards and all kinds. I mean, we can all think of old people as I say that. 10 people pop in my mind. So just because those people are old doesn't mean they're going to be the type of Christian mentor that you're looking for.
Yep.
You want the ones who are still in the race, still serving God in their like in their golden years. I think those are your most productive kingdom years are 50 to 70.
Yep.
Like that's the peak. So
yeah, no kids. You're still
your
body still works. Those are great.
Yeah, your mind is still sharp.
Yeah.
A lot of freedom.
Yeah.
You finally have resources you didn't have when you were 20 and 30.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
One other thing I was thinking about specific to our church, when we first planted, it felt like it was easy to say, we don't have any older people in our church. We're all just reaching college students. We're all like, we saw ourselves as one layer deep.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been semi-true back then. At this point, it's worth noticing that's not necessarily true anymore. Now, we don't have 70-year-olds that, like I said on Sunday, I'm well aware of the lack of gray hair in the room and things like that. But we do have basically a 2-decade span in our ownership, which is not nothing. That means you can, within our own owners of our church, you can find older sibling mentors and you can find even parent mentors or nearly parent mentors if you're one of the younger people in our church listening to this. Even you and I, I'm 12 years older than the freshman coming in. You're a few years older than that. So we're not just one little life stage ahead. We're getting to be decade or decades ahead. So I would encourage the younger people in our church that are hungry for mentorship to just know you also don't have to look outside of Resonate Missoula for your older siblings or your parent mentors. Sure. We're worshiping with you every Sunday. And a lot of those families, although our time is pretty crunched sometimes, we're not as available as we wish we were sometimes. Almost all of our families would love more time with students.
I had coffee with a guy in our church just a couple of days ago, and he asked, how can us young guys serve the older married guys? And one of the things I told him, I was like, ask us to hang out. Like, we want to invest in the kingdom. We want to invest in the next generation. But many of us are busy in such a way we're not initiating. And so one of the best ways you can serve us is initiate towards us. And I guarantee people will say yes, and they'd love to get coffee with you.
Yeah, definitely.
One final thought. Sorry. A thought I was having as you were talking is, I think I often tell people, like, I meet with people who want more friends. Like, I just want better, deeper friendships. And one of the things I tell them is the quickest way to have great friends is to be a great friend. So you start initiating, you start serving people, you start loving them. And pretty soon you'll find yourself surrounded by a group of friends. And I think there's some similar principles with mentorship. Like, if you long for mentorship, the quickest way is to, instead of thinking about yourself, think, who can I mentor? Think about passing that on. And soon with mentorship, it might take longer, but soon you'll find yourself in a church or an organization that has those generations. And you've poured into the next generation, people will want to pour into you. So my maybe final thought on this topic would be, think less about what you need and more about what you can give. Or think less about what I can consume and more about how can I serve others and serve the kingdom.
What can I contribute? And I think even as I think about my role as a mentor, I am drawn to mentor people who are mentoring others. When I hear that there's a junior on campus who has running multiple discipleship groups and Bible studies and influencing the next generation, I want to sit down with that guy. I want to help him out. I want to disciple him. I want to help him grow. The guy who's just, doesn't have any interest in passing anything along to the next generation, but instead wants it to all terminate in him. I got limited time, and it's not going to go to that guy generally. So you're right. The best way to find a mentor is to become a good mentor. And over time, yeah, those people will show up.
Yep.
That's good. Good thoughts. Probably nothing revolutionary, but could be some helpful stuff in there.
Yep.
So thank you, Alex, for sitting down and talking. It was
yeah,
a good
thank
time.
you.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right.